through physics. Right. Well, one of the things that also, Sifu would say things like, uh, every minute spent in your posting was 1 minute added back onto your life. Right. And at first I just thought, okay, well, that's a nice way to encourage somebody. Right. Because I'm in my mid-30s. And, and I thought, okay, well, I could see, some philosophical benefit to it. Right. Um, but later, as you go along, you find that, so for example, uh, and with that being said, is when they would normally practice. Like if you were going to learn from Sifu Ko, you had to be there at least 30 to 45 minutes before sunrise. He wouldn't even talk to you about Kung Fu after like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. He would practice in his place under candlelight up in his place. So if you were going to learn from him in San Francisco, or even if his teachers, it was always before sunrise, and you brought up the morning with your Kung Fu. Okay. And and that would have been great for me. Right. But later, if you look at the sciences, there's 3 main things that you can do every day to yourself to add years to your life. And it's been proven through human biology, and you can check them out. But those 3 things, and they're all free. Okay. The first is being in first light. First light of the day. It occurs 25 minutes before sunrise, about a half hour before sunrise. The first rays, the first light of the day has all the benefits that you could ever make, of getting your D3, all that other good stuff, without any of the harmful rays. That's 1. 2, grounding. Bare feet on the earth, touching the earth with your skin discharges the ions it changes the polarity of your cells. Simple enough, because the earth absolutely will absorb your polarity and put you back at a normal state. And it only takes a couple of minutes. And the longer you stand, the more you discharge into it. That's 2. Right. And then 3 is breath work. Breath work is shown to change pH, improve oxygenation to the brain. Just
all sorts of things.
Mood changes. Yeah, it's just huge, right? There's just really, hypoxia is a killer, right? And as a pulmonary rehab specialist for years, I was always trying to get a pulmonary patient's oxygen saturation to stay in the 90s, because once it gets below 80 in the 80s, you're starting to kill blood cells, right? Brain cells. Reducing headaches and all that stuff. The reason I'm bringing this up is because if you were practicing with Ko in the morning, most of the time that's exactly what you were doing. You were already built in. All 3 of those things were built in. Then that would make sense that if you were doing all 3, that every moment that you practice would add years to your life. Now, they didn't understand the sciences back then, but they understood longevity. And the one thing that the Taoists studied was longevity. How do you get to live longer? And how do you carry on in an energetic, what we call today, a quality of life? It was so important to the Taoist observers and practitioners that it was exactly the reason that Genghis Khan demanded and recruited one of your previous teachers in the 12th century, to come to him. And of course, if Genghis Khan sent a letter, said, I want you to come to him, that he wants you to come, you get your ass on a horse real quick, right? Because he had already established himself and he was concerned about his longevity. And that's when they brought him in. So anyway, all 3 of those things, grounding, breath work, and first light, are all free. All you got to do is take off your shoes, do your posting in the grass, or go sit down in the grass and change and literally change yourself. So that was one of the things I wanted to encourage you that sometimes when I say things out here, they may go in passing. But over the years, I can tell you that I have observed, researched, and studied it. And if it would, I'm not a trivial person. So if I didn't think it'd benefit you, I won't tell you, right? So now, with that all being laid to the side and hopefully encouraging you, last week we did a little exercise, and Bader was interested in reviewing that. And then Ryan had a request as well. So we're going to do a couple of different things this evening. The exercise that we had worked on last week was the Tai Chi exercise for just mostly helping you just get used to the 8 expressions in Tai Chi, right? Lifting up and out, rolling back, pressing down the middle, for example, or just pressing, and then down and out. Okay, those were the 4 primary expressions. They call them the cardinal applications. Okay, and then we can do the secondaries. I'll go through examples of those tonight. I won't put them in the exercise as a continuous form. We'll just do them individually, and then we'll work on the slow palm slanted fly for a minute. So we start. Let's just first take and let everything come in and settle down for just. Let's just take a minute, at least. With that being said, as well as you're standing, if you have questions about specific breath work or things like that, just let me know. No, there's different types of breath that go along with different emotional issues or physiological issues. We shift the weight over, hold the baby, and you don't have to be exact with me. Like I said, this is an exercise. It's not sent down by Moses or anything. Parting horse's mane. Learn to bring things together. From here, hold the baby. Step out. Parting horse's mane. From here, we roll up and out into the alligator's mouth, and then we roll back. Then I let the hands float to the corner here, to this side. I step back at an angle a little bit and roll back to this side. Good. And the right hand's going to float. And now we're going to step to the left, and we're going to thrust out down the middle as we sit back, unfold, wash the back of the hand, and then push out. You could do this sitting in a chair on a bar stool. From here, we're going to sit back. I had just been separating the clouds. Some students like to do a cloud hand. It doesn't matter. It's a good time to add a cloud hand if you feel like you need to practice it. We step out, thrust down the middle, come back. From here, we just put a bookmark in it and come back. Okay? That answer some of your questions? Okay? Did trigger any other questions? The main thing with that exercise is to learn how to step in the different directions, learn to turn your waist, and use the 4 primary techniques in the beginning. Okay. Now let's look at examples of the next 4, what they call the secondary directions, or the secondary applications. Sao Li Chi Ko. Sao means to snatch, okay, like plucking a pear off of a tree. And you can pluck in different directions, just like if you walked up to a piece of fruit, it's just a matter of how you wanted to grab it. But the idea is that it's got that intention of snatching. All right. I just thought about something, Suki, you say about, $100 bill, right? And you're going, that stop, right? Floating in the air. Li, which is to render. I think we did a whole mental meal on Li, right? The various versions of it. And then Chi, and then, I'm sorry, Chi, elbow, Ko is shoulder. Okay. So I tell you what, let's just look at this will be enough work all by itself. Just a little exercise on working elbow and shoulder. Okay. So if you take, for example, center punch. Okay. That's the fist version of it. Okay. You can take it, and all you have to do is, instead of using the fist, just throw in the elbow. And that's exactly how you practice it. Okay. Now, if you're working on both, like what we're talking about this evening, is what you do is you do your intercepting hand or grabbing hand. Okay. And from here, elbow, snake's tongue. Okay. You're going to roll back and take the hand, put it right in the crook of the elbow, and bump with the shoulder. So the idea is to bump in with the shoulder, like in here. Okay, so you're bumping and rocking. Now, how did I just do that? Because now I'm not thinking. I didn't think. Let's see, I went, yeah, yes, and roll back. Yep. And on the roll back from the snake's tongue, all I'm doing is dropping the hand, fold, and then come out again. And that's a good just practice all by itself. You see, I went 1, 2, okay. Then I roll back and out. You've seen this before. For all of you who do the 48, it's just right here. Right? And then what do? You go into this part, into there. So you've already been taught it for some of you, right? Right. So out, over, roll back, shoulder. Go ahead and just practice that a little bit. I'm gonna get a little look up here at the TV screens. I'm gonna get a little closer so y'all can see it from here. Oh, there he is. Hey, Thomas. Okay, so all I did was same hand, same foot out to reach. And you can just practice just this one part, is instead of doing the center punch, just take and throw that elbow into it, into here. Now, just like in the center punch, a lot of times after the center punch, we do a snake's tongue and comes out that way. And that's exactly how it looks. But since we are doing an elbow, the hand is already flipped. Go out, roll back, and now I take the hand that did the elbow and the snake's tongue. When I come back, it is the bracing arm for practicing the shoulder bump. Okay. Nice and easy. Bam, wham. Sound effects help. Smack or bump. Uh-huh. There you go, Bob. There you go. Good. You like that, huh? Huh? As the shoulder. Now, okay, so just one of the things that happened, Bader just said, and it's absolutely one of the trappings of form, is that he said, I never thought about that technique as a shoulder bump. Okay. One of the things that happens, and we talk about this in the mental meal, is that, you know, you all have been taught enough, at least enough to ask the question, what am I doing? In the beginning, you try to start off with one something that you might be doing, right? Ryan and Bader and I were talking about this before. You could take a technique just as simple as on and say, what am I doing? Okay. And the easiest form friendly is just to imagine yourself doing this. Okay. Palms on. You know, a little later, you can add, and I'm not going to hit you. Okay. All right. No, I'm not. No, don't move. Okay. I'm not going to hit you. But what I'm going to do is now I'm going to do it like this, where I add the headbutt to it right here. Usually it'd be right there on his chin or nose, somewhere in there. Later, I would add the knee to it so that all of it comes in. So I'd have 4 points of contact. I can be doing all of that during that technique. You always have responsibilities to ask yourself, do I always have to hit with the fist? What if he's too close? Well, wow. Right there's the elbow. You probably heard the air come out right. And then you snake tongues out, right? Roll, bump, go into your locks. Well, Bob ain't out here right now, but you know, the idea is that you can practice flowing into any number of things that you want, but you try to start with one. But you have a responsibility to kind of ask different questions for yourself. All right. So that's the elbow and shoulder. Let's put one leg forward. And what we'll do is let's just go sweeping. We've done this. We do it almost all the time in different forms. If you learn the Tai Chi 48, you definitely do this technique a lot. Okay. And it's called a Li of expression. And Ryan, let me borrow you again. So basically, the separating, the rendering is in here. This one's coming back. This one's going out. Okay. So I'm not sitting here pulling him from one side and pulling him over the other. That's not my intent. The intent is to render, to separate him, to separate him. Okay? So in my mind, I'm stretching the taffy, stretching the taffy, stretching the taffy, not just slapping the wall, slapping the wall. That's a lot of material already for tonight. We may save, we'll work on that a little bit later. Okay. Yeah, slow palm slant and fly, because it is. Keep on going with this. All right, because one of the things as I'm just watching the folks out here, their minds, usually when you first start, your mind will be too much out here. It'll be too high, right? What I'd like for you to do is think about those of you who do the 9 spot, for example, or have done the 9 spot. Point number 9. It is 9, isn't it? Ming Men. Yeah, point number 9, Ming Men, right in front of your lower back. Okay. The Ming Men is what you're trying to get to guide that movement. It's the same thing that those of you who do reiki, you know, you're trying to learn to get the Ming Men to do the work, not the shoulders, the Ming Men. Get it to do the work. It's part of the reason about the 9 spot. It's basically an anatomy lesson. Try to keep Try to find the Ming Men, not just the hips. All right. I don't want you doing the, bump, bump, bump with the hips, right? What we call the Latino version, right? Don't need all that. You might have some hip movement, but it's got to be guided through the Ming Men. Okay. Any questions? Split. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's basically, it's this, I'm pulling this way. And then just like you're tearing bread, one goes in one way, one goes in the other, right? You don't grab bread and try to tear it by shoving both hands one way or both hands the other. But the idea is that when I'm splitting you, it's my intention to call. Now the result is not what I'm trying. The result is what happens through the splitting, not because I'm trying to get him to go over there. That's looking for the result and not applying the solution. The solution is in the rendering, and that's the result I get. That's to your conversation earlier. Okay, don't look for the result, look for the solutions. And the solutions will give you the result, usually exactly what you're looking for. Okay, and it won't matter where you apply it. I can apply it to the hip. The idea is that I'm splitting. Okay. Now, this one I'm going to turn to the side. Right. And what we're going to do is just think about snatching. Now, you're going to see it in different parts of the form. One of the easiest ways to see it in the form is through your needle seafloor. Okay. And you see it literally just like that. Another place, though, that's a little easier to learn is literally just taking from from a cross hand, okay, and then just snatch down like you're pulling a rope. Boom. Then come up and pull the rope. Now I'm walking backwards with it, back with it, just like, literally just like if you were in there and you were pulling. See what you say, imagine you're trying to ring like an old iron church bell, right? And you're sitting there, boom, boom. Again, sound effects help. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. For those of you who do the Tai Chi 48, this shouldn't look too unfamiliar, right? Again, sometimes you can think about it just as a strike, but what we want to do is really try to get an emphasis on what it is to snatch, to snatch, to snatch. And we're not even doing it with any Fa Jing right now, just trying to get the motion down. Okay? Keep on working on a little bit. Let me check online. Asset speed, looking good. There you go. Good, Eads. Good. Let me see you, Karen. Oh, good to see you too, Jeff. There you go. Okay. So up close, what I'm doing is I'm starting with the cross hand. Look under the temple is, what we call it. Look under the temple. And then you don't have to step, but it's good to get your body in motion. And I'm pulling to what we call the natural side, to here, to this side, coming up and pulling. Okay. If I'm doing it closer to you here, I'm here, I'm going here, here. Don't worry about which hand goes on top right now. We can save those details for later. Any questions, Kathy? Try to finish one on top. Here. Yeah, there you go. All right, here. And the side, okay, so just as another little anatomy lesson, especially when things are in motion, and we talk about this, Lao Gong being probably the most important part to learn on your body, the center of that palm, because you use it for so many things. The tiger's mouth here, right? Ming Min, we talked about earlier, which is right behind your belly button, as if you were looking through Ryan's belly button right here. And if you had a telescope, you would look through his belly button and be able to see his spine at that point. Right in front of it is what they call the Ming Min. In the actual physiology, it is the place where the lower body controls, basically the nerves. Like if you have sciatica, that's the area that gets inflamed, where the discs get messed up, and then all of a sudden, when that area, the energy of the Ming Min gets messed up at around L3, that's what happens. Another part of that anatomy, though, that you keep hearing me say is the natural side. The natural side is usually the side, if I have this leg forward, this is the natural side. This would be the unnatural side. In the beginning, that's how it feels, and you practice it until both sides feel natural. But with most beginners, they're going to feel like this is the natural side, this is the natural side, and so that's how we start. Okay. In dance, is called the negative side, because it's the side you never dance to. Almost all dance techniques are designed for you to turn or exchange over the natural side. And then if you are going to go to the unnatural side, you just flip it. And now you're to the natural side. You're just facing the other direction. Okay. So natural and unnatural. So let's review what we did, because we did the 4 secondary motions. We did sow, up, pull the rope, up, pull the rope. Then we did Li, render. You notice I'm not moving my feet right now. I'm just kind of letting my mind do the technique. Okay. Then we did elbow. And you can just practice elbow all by itself. Okay. And then make sure you practice both sides. So sometimes when you're practicing the center punch, you can sit here and practice it, and then practice it with just the elbow. Okay. Then we did ko, the shoulder. Okay. And we did it with a hand brace here, so you could get used to feeling the shoulder, in this case, thrust forward. When things get real tight, bump it, use the body and bump it, thrust it. Okay. Whatever works for you. It doesn't feel like you're doing a lot. Okay. But when you get close to somebody and you bump them, just like I did with Ryan there, now that was a pretty good little pop. But a lot of times you get in so tight and you get in anywhere in here, I can't. Let's say he's got my other hand, he's got it trapped. I still have my shoulder. I can shoulder there. Okay, so you have to kind of put your mind in it, and though it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, it will feel like you're doing a lot. All right. So elbow, shoulder. Okay. Any questions? Yeah. Where are we at? Oh, wow! It's 6 o'clock. All right. So we're going to finish, though. I can't finish with just beating up on Ryan. Oh, we need to finish with a little peacefulness, right? So, Ryan, if you don't mind coming a little closer, and then that way we'll do a finish, a little post, and I'll face this way. Let's just come into a prayer hand. Bend your knees a notch. Deepen your breath on the inhale, slow it down on the exhale. Stillness is the precursor to understanding movement. All actions, all movement originate from 1 square inch of stillness. Slow things down a little so you can at least observe the stillness. And one day you'll be able to feel the stillness. And then another day you'll be able to use the stillness. Open your palms out into the world. And thank you all for good practice all the way around. Just in summary, you can practice any of the techniques, trying to understand which expressions or combinations expressions that you're using. All right. And then the 3 things that were free that you can do and literally make things in your whole life, your physical health, your spiritual health. And you can pose a question to yourself, and because it is a physiological fact, nobody in the history of time from a deep sleep wakes up from a deep sleep laughing. It doesn't happen. And you ask yourself, why doesn't it happen? Why don't you wake up, giddy? Because you have three emotional tiers that you have to work through. Anger and sorrow, depression are of the lowest emotional states. They require almost no oxygen to have those states. That's why you can wake up angry or depressed or sad or jealous. Any of those little crappy emotions, they don't require hardly any oxygen at all, right? The next level is calm, peaceful, serenity, the sort of things that are just, oh man, it's nice to be alive, grateful. Then the last one requires the most is high levels of happiness, right? Laughter, things along those lines. When you wake up, if you had a poor night's sleep, there's not enough oxygen in your body or brain to have that level of emotion. If you have a pretty good night's sleep and you wake up from a deep sleep, you may have enough to at least feel peaceful. Like, oh man, it's good to wake up today, right? So if you find yourself in the lower dungeons of emotions, practice some late night deep breathing breath work or a little posting outside in your grass. Love y'all. Take care.